One summer moment can change a child's life. Through Toys for Tots Give and Go initiative, your support provides books, games, toys, and outdoor adventures that spark curiosity, creativity, and a love of nature. Whether it's fishing, learning a new sport, reading under a tree, or playing with friends, these moments build confidence and lifelong memories. For too many children, those moments never come. You can help change that this summer. Visit toysfortots.org. Toys for Tots, delivering hope beyond the holidays.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Excuse me. Taxi.
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
It's Fernando Mateo, and I am on fire because I am pissed off. But on the other hand, I want to congratulate the Supreme Court of the United States because they stopped an insane practice. I have daughters that played sports in high school, and they competed in sports. And thank God there were no men playing against them or competing with them at that time. Today, it's insane. Today, listen, when you are born, you're born a man or you're born a woman. Okay, you want to be trans? You can be trans. That's fine. I have nothing against trans people. I respect them. They feel they are women in a man's body. So they want to be a woman. Therefore, they transform themselves, right? But that does not make it right that a man with genes, with cojones, right, play with girls, against girls in competition. Can you imagine Mike Tyson putting on a wig, saying that he's a woman and he wants to box with a woman? Can you imagine what would happen to that woman if Mike Tyson gives her a left hook and a right? She's going to die. It's over. Game over. The same thing happens when men that are trans compete with women. It's a common sense thing, guys. Listen, men are born with certain genes and women are born with certain genes. A man is always much physically stronger than a woman. That you can't take out of a trans person. That trans person will always be a man, will always have the genes of a man, the strength of a man. Therefore, thank you, Supreme Court of the United States, for putting some sense into this issue, into this matter. Today, I have a very special person here in the studio with me. His name is Warden. Remember that word, Warden. Howard Robertson. Howard Robertson and I have been friends since 1989. For 3 years, I worked with Howard Robertson at Rikers Island because he was the person assigned to the MIT program. That was the program where we taught, trained, and employed first-time nonviolent offenders. And he was a deputy warden back then. But guess what? Everyone in that jail loved this guy. You know, usually inmates hate the guards, the officers that are guarding them. But this guy, the inmates, they were fans of his. The guy would walk up and down the aisle, high fives to the inmates. That's how much he respected them, and that's why he got so much respect. And in the 3 years that I worked with this man, I never saw an inmate say anything bad or criticize this man. Howard Robertson went on. He's retired now, of course. Looking good as always, though. He wrote a book, Student of the Game. Become unstoppable with book smarts and street smarts. And the jail is right behind him with this book. And you know what? Howard, welcome. Warden Howard Robertson, welcome to No Excuses with Fernando Mateo.
Thank you, my friend. I want to begin by saying that it's an honor for me to be on your show because I'm a fan of yours. And I'm a fan because I've known you for 35, 36 years. And during the course of that time, you've always used your voice and your platform, your resources to help other people. And so I really feel blessed to be in your circle. And again, thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Warden, I have so much respect for you. I have to call you Warden. I can't call you. You want me to call you Howard? I can't call you Howard. I have to call you Warden because you'll be Warden for life, as far as I'm concerned. What is going on with Rikers Island today? Why is it that you believe they want to shut this down? Why is it that this administration, more than any other administration, and the city council, why do they want to shut down Rikers Island? Is Rikers Island broken?
Well, it's actually the administration, but I just want to take you back. Rikers Island is the largest detention complex in the entire country, and it's over 400 acres, 10 different jails. One of those jails is called the Rosen Singer Center. That's where the young ladies go if they get arrested anywhere within the 5 boroughs of New York City. Now, during the course of my career, which spanned 22 years, each and every year, over 100,000 new admission inmates passed through the system. So by the time I retired, over 2 million inmates, and again, we're just talking about from New York City, came into the system. So my personal goal was always to reduce violence and to lower the high rate of recidivism. And we attacked that by helping the guys adjust to institutional living, developing socially desirable habits and behavior patterns so that when they were discharged, they stand a better chance on not coming back. And with the help of dedicated officers, civilian personnel, volunteers like yourself, we were able to accomplish that goal. And that was done during a time when C-74 was considered to be one of the most violent jails in America. You know, you stepped to the table and you said, hey, I'm going to give these guys a trade, teach them how to lay carpet, and when they're discharged, I'm going to have jobs waiting for them. Now, where I'm from, if something sounds too good to be true, it usually is. But you was a man of your word, and when they walked out of those doors, you had jobs waiting for them. So that's real rehabilitation at its best. Now, the numbers that I just ran off to you in terms of over 100,000 new admission inmates coming into the system every single year, they're real numbers. And so I want to believe that, and this all started with the Bill de Blasio administration, I want to believe that their goal was to set the ball in motion in terms of reducing mass incarceration. Because, again, 100,000 new admission inmates every year just from the 5 boroughs of New York City shows us that we can't arrest our way out of crime. So we got to attack it another way with programs like you started, drug treatment programs, electronic monitoring if we're going to look at alternatives to incarceration, job training, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm just a little turned around because when you take a look at what this is going to cost the American public, or the city of New York, I should say, they're talking about closing down Rikers Island, and the reason that they're given is a little disingenuous because they're saying that Rikers Island is too dangerous for reform, so we got to shut it down. Bill de Blasio's commissioner got on nationwide TV, and he said, it's too dangerous, It's a powder keg. Nothing could be done. Got to close the doors, in so many words. And so when you look at that, the officers who were working for this guy, they got to be thinking in their head, well, this is our leader. This is the man here. If he feels that we're in a no-win situation, then he's got to be right. And so what do the officers do? They stop coming to work, and they do just enough to keep them getting fired. And so that's one of the issues that we currently have on Rikers Island right now. And so now we look at what it's going to cost if we close Rikers Island down. They demolished the Manhattan House of Detention. They paid a company $125 million to demolish it. Brooklyn House of Detention. They paid a company $60 million to demolish it. Queens House of Detention. They paid another company $43 million to demolish it. And so we're looking at $225 million just to tear the buildings down when we have 400 acres on Rikers Island. If we feel that a jail is outdated and we need to replace it with something more new and modern, refurbish the buildings on Rikers Island. Right now, from what I've read, it's going to be $4 billion per jail. And they want to put a jail in each borough. So we're talking $16 billion would it be. That's a lot of money. 16
billion is what they're saying. By the time it's all said and done, the way the city government works, it'll be $40 billion for 4 jails.
Right.
Meantime, as you said, you have 400 acres at Rikers Island. That's a lot of land that's undeveloped. Tear down those old jails on the island, build new jails on the island.
Correct.
Keep it on the island. Don't put it in people's backyards because it's not fair to New Yorkers. You can save, right now the city has huge financial deficit. Where are those 20 to 40 billion dollars going to come from if we don't have it?
Taxpayer money.
You know, the thing is you don't have business people running the city. You have people that are politicians at their best. All they want to do is look good or pretend to look good or pretend to be doing the right thing. Rikers Island, Warden, you were there. I was there. There's nothing wrong with the land. You can build on that land. You can reform. When you build a jail, build schools in the jails. Maybe not for education, but for vocational training. And then the city spends billions of dollars in construction every year in New York. When those inmates come out from learning how to do plumbing, carpentry, electrician, telecommunications, welding, you can teach those skills while these kids are in there so that when they're released, the city can ask the contractors that are being awarded these tens of billions of dollars every year, hey, part of your credit is going to be hiring some of these kids to work on city projects.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
You know, it's an easy solution. You're a wealth of knowledge. Have they reached out to you and asked you, hey, Warden, how did the MIT program work under your leadership? Did it work or did it not work? You know, I've been in touch with one of the former inmates that graduated, stays in touch with me all the time. He's also an author today. His name is Wilfredo Ruiz, right? Wilfredo came out of the program back in 1990. And today, the guy works. He's got a family. He's doing the right thing. And he remembers where he came from. But I'm asking you, as one of the best wardens that's ever come out of Rikers Island, what advice would you give the mayor and the corrections commissioner and the federal government Because believe me, there should be a petition out there. Do not close Rikers Island. Rebuild it.
Well, again, it's an easy fix. Just want to make one other point. One of the reasons, again, the main reason that's being given is that the inmates are too violent. And so if somebody's under the impression that you're going to take these same violent inmates that are assaulting officers, stabbing inmates, doing whatever they want to do, when they want to do it, and then we're going to move them from Rikers Island and put them in a brand new borough facility, that's going to stop. Not going to change. It's the same soup, different bowl. And so we have to take a look at changing the culture on Rikers Island, but you have to have the right people in place to do it. Now, one of the things that I feel is really hurting the agency is that every mayor that comes in, they bring their own guy, which is, all well and good. But what they've been doing is you have the commissioner that's brought in. Now, the commissioner is being held up by folks who rose up through the ranks. So you have the chiefs, you have the assistant chiefs, you have the wardens, you have the deputy wardens. All these guys, they know the job. And so they're replacing the chiefs with people who are being brought in from the outside. And so what you have now is the blind leading the blind. I was listening to your show maybe about a month ago, and you had a former commissioner. And again, it's not their fault because this is not their arena, so to speak. Giving you an example, the Knicks just won a championship. That coach, Brown, Mike Brown, the Mets are doing horrible right now. You wouldn't take Mike Brown and make him the manager or the coach of the Mets because that's not his forte. That's a different arena altogether. Great coach, but he's not a baseball coach. And so you're bringing in great managers from other agencies, but Rikers Island is a total different arena.
But the chiefs that you just mentioned that are being replaced, and the deputy wardens, the wardens, when a new commissioner comes in, is that demoralizing to them because they weren't, put up for that position, knowing the job? I mean, is it because we have so much inexperienced, good managers, because I'm not going to criticize any commissioner, good managers, but poor leadership?
Yeah, and it kills morale, to your point. So if I'm a warden and I'm waiting to become a chief, but you brought in the chief from the outside, what does that leave me?
A chief that doesn't know the job,
exactly.
That doesn't understand the job,
exactly.
That doesn't understand Rikers. So there's that breakdown and that lack of respect for the people that are coming in. So those rank and files can actually make it impossible for that commissioner to achieve their goal because they can undermine them.
Correct.
Am I correct? Does that happen?
Yeah, and again, they're doing just enough to keep them getting fired because you're coming to me, asking me how do you handle certain situations, and I'm looking at you saying, hey, you're sitting in a chair that I'm supposed to be sitting in. You're getting the big bucks that I should be making. So you got to figure it out yourself. And so you got problems all over the place.
It's really a shame that our leadership doesn't really look for people that are qualified. They look for friends. They look for people who help them during their campaign. They look for people that help get them elected. They're not looking for experience. They're not looking for people that are going to make the job, do the job right. And that's why you have all these problems at Rikers Island, I remember when you were there, inmates respected. Why did they respect you so much, Warden? Why such huge respect for Warden Robertson?
Well, I'm a guy.
These are criminals now,
right? But they're human beings. They're human beings. They're people. And I grew up in the so-called hood, and so I always walked and talked like a guy who came from the inner city. I walked with a little bit of swag.
You have big swag. I remember you back then. You were buffed. You had a swag, and you played basketball with these kids, with these guys.
Right.
So what was it? Was it your upbringing? Talk to me about your upbringing.
Well, I grew up in a drug-infested neighborhood on the south side of Jamaica, Queens, New York. When I was 9 years old.
That's what 50 Cent is from, right?
Yeah.
50 or 50?
50 Cent.
50 Cent, okay.
Mm-hmm. And when I was 9, my father was found dead in the street. I had 2 older brothers, and over a period of time, drugs took both of them out. I had an older sister, and over a period of time, drugs took her out as well. And when I was 18, my mother was killed. Her boyfriend shot her. Now, my story gets deeper, but I always cut it off at that point, because the point I want to make to young people is that we all have stories to tell. And if you don't have one, you know somebody else who does. Stories like, my father wasn't around, my mother was on drugs, I grew up in foster care, I was molested as a child, my parents got divorced, we were homeless. Stories go on and on. But I always tell people that you can't use your story as an excuse to do the wrong thing.
That's why this show is called No Excuses.
No Excuses. And, so I preached that, and I shared that information with the inmate population, always kept it real, as they say, and always did the right thing. And see, one of the keys that a lot of people miss is that you got to listen to people, and you never know what they're going to tell you. When just going back, when you was talking about the other commission that you had on, you said that they had something like 300 fires in 1 year.
Yes.
And that's a crazy number, because anytime you have a fire, anytime you have a flood, it's orchestrated. Everybody in the housing unit knows that the fire is going to be set. You always have the guys that set the fire at the back of the chair. There's nobody sleeping in their cells. All the cells are open. And the steady housing area officer, he or she knows that a fire is going to be set. When you go to the housing unit after the fire, nobody's talking to the guys. Hey, what's going on? Who set the fire? Why was it set? Well, I don't know who set the fire, but we haven't been to the yard in 2 weeks. We haven't been to the commissary in a week and a half. And so it's a form of protest. And so the way you stop the fires, you go and you address the issue. So you make sure these guys are getting their services: recreation, barbershop, clinic, law library,
respect,
commissary, just basic stuff. And so when you provide the services, you're going to cut 90% of the problems. You're going to wipe them right off the board.
Right. It's Commissioner Luis Molina was on my show. Yeah. And I appreciate you listening, because you basically listened to what he said. And there were fires, and that was reduced from probably thousands of fires that were being put out every year at Rikers. But as you said, these things are a reaction from the inmates, a reaction to disrespect, or at least for them not getting the services that they want.
Right.
But listen, Warden, listening to your story and listening to how you lost your parents and your brothers and your sister, what that did was it motivated you to do the right thing. It's like, when I was a kid, there were 10 of us living in a 3-room apartment. My parents had 1 room for them. We had the kitchen and the living room for all 9 of us, all right, or 8 of us. So you can imagine how we slept on bunk beds, double and triple bunk beds. That's how we slept. And I wanted to escape that. Meantime, I'd walk out the door and there were junkies shooting up. There were drug dealers downstairs telling me to, sell drugs with them and do. I could have easily gone that route because it was there. It was at my footstep. But I said, no, I don't want to wind up in jail. I had a brother who was almost an Olympic gold medalist, boxer, great fighter. He wound up being a junkie. May he rest in peace. So I saw the actions of all my friends and the people that lived in my neighborhood. And I said, That's not the route I want to take. You know, so I found the opportunity, and I was adopted by a Jewish family when I was 14. They used to pick me up and take me to work and then bring me home at night because I dropped out of school. Because everything in school was drugs. If they were selling, the guards were selling heroin, cocaine, uppers, downers, acid, you name it, in the corridors of the school, of Seward Park High School. The annex where I went to, because once I got to the high school, I said, no more of this, right? And I dropped out. But I didn't use that as an excuse to go out and become a drug dealer or become a thief. You know, I went to work and I learned the skill and I climbed. You, on the other hand, went to work and you reached the highest levels of a jail personnel, which is a warden. You know, chiefs don't work the jails. Am I correct?
Correct.
You have deputy wardens and wardens. The chiefs are in the office, okay, in Manhattan. So you made it to the heights of your career, going through everything you went through. So here, once again, we should never use the color of our skins to define who we are. We have to use it as an advantage. Take advantage of all those minority programs that are out there. Take advantage of the opportunities you have in departments like the corrections or the NYPD and climb to the top. But climb up there with integrity. Warden Robertson left, climbed in grace and left in grace. It's unfortunate that our elected officials, our mayors, start going back to Giuliani, Bloomberg, de Blasio, the worst mayor this city has ever had, ever. Okay, Bill de Blasio, the worst mayor this city has ever had. And Eric Adams and then Mondami now. I can't believe they have not reached out to you to help them fix what's going on at Rikers Island.
Well, I know that I have the knowledge and the skill set.
Warden, I have to take one more commercial break and we're going to come back on fire, lit up.